Greetings and welcome back to 50 Shades of Beige. Well, I was on stream a couple of weeks ago and the subject came up, as it does so many times, that white PC parts tend to be more expensive than others. Basically, if you want a design that's somewhat unique or different, like the Easton Kitty GPU or the Thermaltake Tower 300, the cost can be very high. So I decided to take on a challenge. Welcome to part 1 of the $350 Great White PC build. Today we're specifically focusing on the GPU. Can it game at 1080p in modern titles? Is it worth the jankery? And will it burn my house down? Well, I just so happened to come across a Vega 64 GPU for less than $100, and I can hear the dissenting voices now. Why not just buy a 1660 Super or GTX 1070? Well, this Red Devil is way cooler than, say, the average base model 1660 Super. And neither of those cards double as a furnace for the upcoming winter months. The jankery potential is just way lower across the board. Now, I will admit that $87 is pretty cheap even for a Vega 64, so let's have a closer look. For those of you that are Vega fans, you already know that this card is infamous for having issues and needing repairs, specifically related to the power delivery and that sort of thing. But this one works, and I got it cheap because it's a little dinged up. If you look right here, you'll see there's some scratches. I don't even know how that happens to a GPU. There's also some more up top here. And then this Red Devil logo has definitely seen better days. And let's face it, this thing is probably also due for a thermal pad and thermal paste replacement, given its age. And it was definitely a premium offering in its time. Now, I already know it functions well because we went ahead and tested it out. So let's go ahead and tear it down and get it ready for some paint work. Colors here. I watched a Project Farm video, and according to his research, Rust-Oleum is the best spray paint you can get. Ultimate Control 5-in-1 Superior Results Spray, whatever that means. I think I'm gonna do white first. Editor Shades here. This footage is from the first of 3 attempts to properly paint this GPU shroud. I'm aware that I probably should have done this coat vertically instead of horizontally, and it took me a total of 9 coats, many of which I had to completely strip before I really dialed in a technique. I am not a spray painting extraordinaire.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
Unfortunately, I lost all my GoPro footage from the paint process, so we're going to go ahead and pick up towards the end of the project. All right, here we are. The final product here for our Vega 64. I think it doesn't look too bad considering it is a rattle can job. I wasn't expecting the blue paint to be quite this glossy, like it's super duper shiny, like almost a mirror finish. Yeah, it's definitely got some big time mistakes. I gotta clean up these holes a little bit. But overall, like, I feel like if you're just looking at this in a computer, like upside down like that with some RGB, you're probably not going to notice too much. What really bothers me is the back plate. So I had taped up the back plate. It's definitely not my best, but I'm still learning to. This is probably the 5th or 6th time that I've painted PC parts. So, you know, it is what it is, right? We're trying to do things on the cheap. I spent $14 in total on the paint, so not a big deal. Mrs. Shades is going to go through this, do a little bit of sanding, and then try to clean up these lines and clean up these little nicks and knobs and things. And we'll see how it turns out. And then I gotta fix these edges too. They kind of look weird. Since the back plate is kind of the centerpiece of the GPU, I want to make sure that looks really good. I gotta figure out this LED, like backlit LED sign situation here. And then the last part will be, I think I want to do some kind of like 90s sort of splatter tood kind of thing to it. You know what I mean? I don't know. We'll think on it and see what happens. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing put back together. Alrighty, we're all finished. Well, as finished as we'll ever be. There's a few little things that I still kind of want to get to, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to them. I did end up running an RGB strip through here. Mrs. Shades did a fantastic job on the splatter paint. It really helps hide a lot of the imperfections. These posts still need a little bit of work. I might do those again. The back, we opted out of the splatter paint, but it still looks okay. Overall, I'm happy with the results. For $14 and a little bit of my time, I think it turned out pretty nice, and it's something that looks cool. I definitely wouldn't like sell this on or pass it on to somebody just because it's a little rough. But yeah, overall, I'm happy with it. Let's go ahead and get this thing put on a bench and see how it does. So this is a Ryzen 9 7900X on an Asus TUF B650E motherboard with 32 gigs of RAM. And the cooler that I have on here is actually from a company called Viver. They're more known for making tools, but kind of making a splash in the PC space right now. This cooler is currently $37. I'm not advertising for it or endorsing it, but it was just such a good deal, I couldn't pass it up. So far, it's been great on the 7900X, so I'll have it linked below in an Amazon affiliate link if you guys want to try it out. And we'll have a video with a little bit more of a deep dive on this cooler coming up on the channel soon. So go ahead and get our Vega 56 mounted up here. One also quick bit of caution for you guys. If you are going to stick a random RGB strip in your GPU, it's probably better to use one that has some kind of a diffuser on it. I have essentially open contacts in there. This is not an ideal setup. So yeah, do as I say, not as I do. There we go. All right, there she goes. We're all set. Okay, let's go ahead and see how she does on the bench. First up, we tried BeamNG.drive, and I was kind of surprised to see how well the Vega 64 did here. I tried a few different maps, and we averaged around 70 FPS on the high preset. Next, I gave Expedition 33 a shot. Unfortunately, the game wouldn't load with 100% scaling resolution, so we had to use the high preset instead, which is 85% scaling. The system did fine here, as expected, despite some random frame spikes here and there. Of course, we had to give Helldivers 2 a go. This was a little bit more of an interesting situation. I started off on the high preset with ultra quality scaling, and the system did reasonably well, generally hanging in the 50 to 55 FPS range, until certain lighting effects came into play, at which point I noticed about a 30% drop in FPS and a few stutters. I went ahead and turned down the details to medium, which helped us get closer to that almighty 60 FPS mark, but the game still struggles with certain flash and fire effects. By request, I gave Squirrel with a Gun a try, and I must say, it is a blast to play, especially if you're into puzzle-type 3D platformers. The game provides an interesting Unreal 5 use case, as you can turn UE5's lumen lighting on and off in the settings. Overall, the game ran well on the high preset as expected, though we did see about a 20% hit to FPS with lumen turned on, as you can see here. The choice is yours, but I actually prefer it to be off. Lastly, I ventured into the world of Stellar Blade, and I experienced similar frame spikes as we saw in Expedition 33 and Helldivers, but a heck of a lot more of them. The performance was tolerable, and the game looked fantastic on the very high preset, but I finally caved and turned on FSR3 in Quality mode. This definitely solved the frame spike issue, but the FSR sharpening is super harsh, and it did noticeably impinge on the picture quality. Well, that's going to do it for part 1 of the all-white budget build. What do you think? Is the Vega 64 competent enough for a budget machine in 2025, or are there better options out there in the $100 price range? Be sure to stay tuned, as we've got a boatload of content on the way, and in the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see ya soon. Now, apparently, Vega 64 users have been dealing with this stuff for like, I don't even know how long since the card came out. Hey, Radeon, fix your flippin' drivers already.